Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Insight into Wellness. I am Alexandra Greenberg, owner of Green Tree Ayurveda. Today, my guest is Jennifer Hickel, and she is an Ortho-Bionomy practitioner, which we'll learn more about, but is a more non-invasive, really gentle type of body work. And today's topic is increase comfort, improve function. A little bit about Jennifer. She began her journey because she loves the difference that Ortho-Bionomy had in her own body. Shortly after her first class, she was able to start using Ortho-Bionomy to help ease severe nerve pain that a family member was experiencing. And after seeing what a difference this work made for someone who had nerves that were decaying, Jennifer realized that the comfort and relief that could be brought to others was incredible. Her own horse and dogs regularly benefit from sessions that help to keep them at their best, as does her family. And I would like to stress that with the amount of stress that we have from COVID and the immense amount of inner and outer work that we're all doing to support Black Lives Matter movement and the commitment to change, it is very important that we all practice self-care. I was introduced to this really badass podcast, Girl Trek, who opened their Black History Boot Camp podcast with an episode honoring Audre Lorde. She is a self-described Black, lesbian, mother, warrior, poet, and she spoke out radically on self-care. Miss Lorde said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. This is so vital for us, so important for all of us. And I'm very excited to have Jennifer here going into and giving us insight on Ortho-Bionomy. So without further ado, Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and to share.
Yes. I love starting off these podcasts, just diving into who you are. And I really like to ask if there was a sense of self-care or honoring holistic wellness when you were a child, or when did that kind of come into your life?
Um, when I was a child, self-care really was just about going out and being in nature. It wasn't really a sense of holistic wellness. On my personal health journey, I had been dealing with endometriosis and reproductive issues.
Mm-hmm.
And in my early 30s, I had exhausted most of the options I was willing to try in the standard medical community. And I heard about the naturopathic college in town, which is now a university, and decided that I had nothing to lose venturing into this other world of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really how I discovered holistic care and how even your diet can impact your reproductive system. And then it eventually led me to Ortho-Bionomy as well.
Yeah, it's really that holistic, everything, mind, body, spirit, heart, everything
Yes.
comes together. And so tell us what is Ortho-Bionomy and what isn't it? I think that's kind of an interesting place.
Right. So everybody always asks if it is massage because that is something that we all can relate to. We have an idea of what massage is. And it's not. It has some similarities to a lot of different works. When I first was trying to describe it, I was like, that feeling you get when you get acupuncture or when you go to the chiropractor, and it's touches on all of those things and how it feels in your body, but it is completely different. What it is coming in and working with your body. Sometimes it's little touches, sometimes it's moving an arm into a position and helping it release with that kind of positioning. And it's just really working with your body's own intelligence to help it self-correct and release. And it can be releasing from an injury, it can be releasing from compensation from old things that we've done, or even just releasing the emotional stress that we carry day to day. Your body gets to decide, and it's wonderful.
I love that your body gets to decide, because we always have, we have this mind that works 24/7 and we think we know, but really our body is intelligent and knows as well. Would you consider this like an energetic type of work as well?
There are some components of it that can be energetic. We start off, or at least I started my first classes in very physical work, but there are elements where occasionally somebody can't be touched, or an animal can't be touched because they're in that much pain. So we can work more energetically. On my website and on my cards, I put energy work on there just because it's a good opening to let people know that there are those options. And we also work with things like using our nervous system to hold a pattern that another person's nervous system, through the use of mirror neurons, can choose to copy and use or not, because their body gets to choose. And that will also help with releases. So it kind of is in the realm of more energy
Plays with
work,
it.
but it's very physiological as well.
That idea that this non-invasive idea, so it's almost like your hand can just hold and press and wait, and you as a practitioner will feel into what the body is responding to or mirroring, you said.
Yes, yes.
So beautiful and gentle. I did a little research on this, and it came around in the 1970s. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yes.
Since then, and Dr. Arthur Paul's developed this. Has there been anything new that came to it, or did he develop this and then it just was used and then it became more widely used, or is there still things that are entering and changing and flowing within this modality?
So the beauty of this work is that it is continuing to evolve. And I've gotten to take classes from instructors who learned directly from Dr. Paul's, and also from instructors who are like a generation or two away from that. And the way that each of them has taken the work in their practice and in their teaching has continued to build on this very nice basic set of principles and this basic set of knowledge. So when everyone calls him Arthur. When Arthur first created Ortho-Bionomy, it was working with the energy of the body, bringing in that principle of judo, where going where the energy is already going, which is where the light compression or the light traction
Mm,
comes from. And then it's built upon that, the use of what we call reflexes, which is where I was mentioning using like the mirror neurons, things like that. That's continued to evolve from some practices where he started, where he, like, one of them is you could just hold a pattern of like, oh gosh, I regretted something small, like I lost my keys. I lost my keys. And that release of like, oh, I found them. They were in my coat pocket.
I love that
Like,
feeling.
right?
I love that
Right?
feeling.
Because you can do it right there. You go, right? And just even holding that, like, ooh, 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 and that getting to that release will help somebody's body release. You don't even talk through that, and seeing where that kind of use has come and grown with different instructors and different practitioners. So we just continue to build and evolve.
It sounds like such a beautiful, calm, and grounding experience. And I love that you meet your patient. Is that, your patient, your guest? I love that you meet them where they are. I think that's so important. We all have a completely different trauma that we're working through. Our body is reacting in different ways. And so meeting where you are, as opposed to, which are also great modalities, chiropractor or massage, which can go in and there's definitely feeling and sensing and
Oh, yeah.
meeting people where they are. But I love that you can just start with just a hand or no touching. And then what does that entail? If you're not really touching, is there a thought process, or how do you dive into someone that can't even be touched?
Well, a lot of it is making sure that they're open for that too, so that we can have that little bit more open connection. There's lots of research now that measures how our energetic fields interact with each other, things you can find
Mm.
like on the Heart Math Institute. And it's something that scientists couldn't measure previously. And now it's measured and studied a lot more. And it's evolving. So it's a thought process, but also just knowing how our energy can interact and just letting that be guided by what their body is needing and by my knowledge, just coming together and just it's a lot of thinking, but there's a lot of feeling with it too.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I'm not describing it very
You're
well.
describing it beautifully. I'm like, dude, I'm ready. I'm ready. And it also sounds like, because of how gentle this is and how non-invasive, it's safe for kids as well.
It is. In fact, the first person on my massage table was my daughter when she was 3,
Oh, tell
and I
us.
knew I could practice on her and I wasn't going to break her.
Mm,
And Arthur's
gentle.
vision was that there was an orthobionomist in every home, because
Hmm.
it is something that's can be just part of your everyday wellness. And honestly, it's part of our first aid. If she falls, I'm like checking in, like, okay, did your alignment change in your body? Do you have now tight muscles and tight fascia, or you just have a scrape? Like, what do we need to do? Last night, my daughter, she's now 8, she was having really terrible growing pains in her legs, and
Mm,
everything was tight. And so she got Ortho-Bionomy before bed. And then she woke up again and she got more Ortho-Bionomy. And we just worked with what her body needed. And she fell asleep getting work.
mm.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. Oh man, do I remember growing pains? And you also use it with your animals. I would love
Mhm.
to know more about that. That piece is so interesting.
So um, my friend who actually got me to take my first class, her first class was working with horses and working with people. And she taught me a couple of things for self-care. And then after my first spine class, a lot of our discussion was how the spinal column of people is very similar to the spinal column of horses and also dogs. It's just the vertical orientation versus the horizontal
Hmm.
orientation and how much bend we have to the sides. And so I found some information, and then just I just started practicing, like, what can we do to work with my horse's spine, and how can I, if he's got a tight muscle before a ride or after a ride, how can I use this to actually help release that? And then I took some classes that are specifically equine oriented so that I could have a bigger toolbox. But the horses love this work. And my husband, who has been incredibly supportive, but also questions everything, which is wonderful. He said that the thing that really sold him on the effectiveness of this work, especially when we get to like the energetic aspects of it, because he's again skeptical.
Hmm.
You can watch the horses respond to touch,
Mm,
or even being no touching and just interacting out away from their body, and they move and respond, and they're not going to lie or shine you on about it. They're going to respond, or they're not going to respond if you've made the connection and help them release. So
yeah. Oh,
it's
so
cool.
amazing. And just to be able to, like you said, even have someone who practices orthobionomy in the home for your everyday uses, it's this is how holistic wellness is saving lives on the daily. And it's amazing.
It's
Um, I
yeah.
would love to know more. In your bio, you talked about someone with decaying nerves. Like, what have you really seen orthobionomy do for that? Something that is just seems so irreversible.
So um, yeah, her whole body was decaying because of a vascular issue and a complication of some other things. And she was on a lot of narcotic painkillers. But in my personal experience, I found that that doesn't quite touch nerve pain as
Mm,
much as it does some of the other things. Um, so I couldn't touch her hands when I first started because I didn't her hands hurt too much. Um, and then I didn't know how to do it anyway. So just working in the shoulders and the upper back, we were able to have her have relief from that pain for a couple of hours.
mm,
And and I thought that's huge
yeah.
because her body was truly dying. Um, Thankfully, most of my clients aren't in that state of health. And some of the more fun stories that are still impactful involve things like there was a gal who was on my table at a big expo and I was doing 20-minute sessions. And I always joke that I take before and after pictures of the horses because they change a lot, but I don't take pictures of people because it's kind of creepy. Boy, I wish I had a picture of this lady because she'd had some quite a few things happen, but her back was really rounded, and she just
Mm,
carried herself that way. And she said her complaint was that her shoulders were really tight. So I had her lay down on my table with face down, and her shoulders were so tight I couldn't actually work in them. So because this is a holistic work, I work where things are interconnected. So I had her turn over and I said, just bear with me. We'll spend a few minutes here and see what happens. Because if we can release the fascia and the muscles here, that will impact your back, and walked her through that. And she said, okay, I'm willing to try anything. I'm like, all right.
let's do it.
All right, exactly. So we spent the entire session working on her chest and her ribs. And as I was working, she said, "Oh yeah, I had open heart surgery like 4 years ago." Oh, did you have shoulder problems before that or after that? Because all of this will impact, as this
Hmm.
heals, will impact your shoulders. And she says, "Well, I think I had them before." I said, "Okay." And I worked down a little bit more. And she's like, "Oh yeah, and I had another one years before that." Oh, and so we just worked with the scar tissue from the surgery. And when she sat up, her back was more straight. And
Mm.
orthobionomy is not about taking someone who's hunched over and making them something else. It's about helping them be comfortable where they are. But this is why I say increase comfort, increase function. We got her more comfortable by allowing this to open up in a way that her body was able to do and ready for. Otherwise, it wouldn't have done that. And she was able to be more comfortable in her shoulders. She sat, because her friend got a session right after that, she sat at the booth and she just breathed. She said, "I can open my chest and breathe better
Oh,
than I
that's
have in so
beautiful.
long because all of this was moving better." So those kinds of things are just incredible. And sometimes, we have somebody that just feels a little bit better after their session, and then we just keep working. I said, if we can make a 10% improvement in your body and then another 10%, eventually we'll get you feeling
Small
more and more
steps.
comfortable. And
Yeah.
and most of us have been dealing with whatever's causing us pain for a long time, and to
Yeah.
have the body be able to slowly undo those patterns is, I think, far more reasonable than expecting a miracle every time, which would be cool, but you know,
And
just
yeah, and for you, and coming back to you as a practitioner, how do you feel during and after these sessions? What's going on in your body?
well, I always just try to make sure I'm really centered beforehand. So I get to usually have just this beautiful place of calm and
Mm.
connectedness. And I'm in my office right now, and it's often like nothing outside of these walls exists because we just get to focus. Um, and I keep talking about mirror neurons. Like everybody knows what they are. If not, go look it up. But, you know, it just allows your people to copy each other. It's a psychosocial awareness, or to not. But sometimes if I've got something going on in my body and somebody is having a release, my body will mirror that, which is
Wow.
a bonus, but it doesn't always happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually working with a horse yesterday who had his ribs and his sternum knocked out of alignment.
Wow.
And I had fallen a few months ago, and apparently I'm still working on that. And so as his sternum released, mine changed, and it was incredible. I was like,
Amazing.
thanks. But that doesn't happen every
Amazing.
time. And I just feel just the emotional side of it, just that beautiful calm, and just it's so wonderful being able to help people feel a little better every time when they leave my office, walking more easily, or just being more comfortable in their body. It's priceless.
Just hearing you say that puts me in such a state of calm, and knowing that you're offering that is so beautiful. And and you came to Ortho-Bionomy, um, and that means other people can, go take courses and step into that. What was that like for you, the process of learning something new and kind of just coming into something
Um,
fresh, specifically into
so
Ortho-Bionomy?
right. Um, so I had been seeing a practitioner for about a year, and we were working with my reproductive system, and she was getting ready to host a class, and she said, "You should take a class. I think you would really love it. I think you'd be really good at this." And I said, "Okay, let me think about it," because I was like, I could really love it. But I also wanted to make sure I wasn't doing it just because all my friends were.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yep.
um, right. And then my first class was 3 days, and the principles spoke to me, and a lot of it is how I've really tried to live most of my life, and some of it was ways I would like to live more of my life. And then we got into 2 days of very physical work, and then we had a day of reflexes, and it just spoke to me. I know this language that the body uses,
Mm-hmm.
and um, so a couple weeks later, I worked with my family member we just talked about, and then after that, I looked at my husband and I said, I know I had this whole career path planned out for doing this completely different thing, but I don't want to do that anymore. I really want to
Yes.
do this. And he was like, are you sure?
And you were like, yes, I am.
Like, yeah, I said,
100.
I'm so sure. I don't even want to, I don't want to put any more energy into that other path. Um, and so I figured out ways I could race really quickly through the classes, and time and life kind of change your course. And so it took me 3 years, which is not an incredibly long time, taking classes
Hmm.
here and there. And then you have time to absorb it and practice it and just evolve with it.
So if you're listening to this and you are wanting to experience a life change and step into holistic health, this sounds like it welcomes you almost.
I feel like it does. And I'm not somebody who had a medical background. I mean, my background, if I were to give you guys my resume, is a lot of training, like corporate training and retail training and
Hmm.
management, and completely different set of skills. And to come into Ortho-Bionomy, I don't feel like I'm playing catch up. My education was really good. And I am so excited for more people to learn about this, that on my website, I actually have where you can find classes near you and a link to the school that I went through classes with, because I just want more people doing this. I think it's incredibly valuable.
Yes, I feel that way about Ayurveda every time that I talk about it or just talk about how unique we are and how Ayurveda can help everyone individually on diet, mind, body. I'm right there with you and like, please learn, come learn, experience, know that there are options available. And I'm so excited because you're going to give us some things that we can practice at home.
Yes.
I would love
So
to know.
a couple of my favorite things. The first one is actually for our adrenals, right? Because our adrenals will kick in and they're going to keep working and working and working and working. And a lot of us will get to where we experience adrenal fatigue,
Hmm.
and it changes our hormone balances in our bodies. There are a couple of ways that you can get them to like go back into that more relaxed mode. One is finding a good laugh. Sometimes that's hard for us to do. So
Hmm.
this is a simple tool, and I like that it's subtle. So if you're having stress or anxiety in a crowd, you can do this and not have anybody look at you like, what is that crazy person doing? It's super subtle. So I'm going to just the camera a little bit. And I'm going to find my belly button. It's a great view. Uh, so find your belly button. You're going to move about 2 inches up, and then you're going to make a T about 2 inches out. And I call this the magic T. And it might be a little tender there, it might not. You're just going to make some gentle circles. It's not a ton of pressure. I'm not tunneling to my spine. It's just a little bit. And that actually works with some points that are called Chapman's neurolymphatic reflex points. And that's an osteopathic work that Arthur wanted to make sure didn't get lost. So he built it into our training program. And so I can explain how that works another time.
Hmm.
But just massaging those points will actually help the adrenals just kind of be able to go into rest mode, which is important for things like cortisol levels and all the other stress hormones that go with that.
And
And it lets everything just slow down.
yeah, I've been doing it, just sitting here and just also bringing awareness to the diaphragm, to the belly, to the breathing. And I'm sure that is part of that breath. Lovely.
Right?
And go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, and even for people who aren't aware of their breath, if they can just find that, the breath follows. The body
Mm,
is so amazing like that.
yeah. Was there anything else? Any fun
Um,
little?
well, yeah, I've got another one that is super easy, because so much of it, of what we've been doing right now, we're all on our tech, we're leaning forward, we're on our phones. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody's heard probably the buzz about things like tech neck, where when we're forward, we kind of just sit that way, or we'll curl more.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can figure out a good way to say it. So one of the things you can do is just exaggerate that pattern, which is a principle of orthobionomy. We're going to exaggerate the patterns that are there. So you can actually just kind of curl your shoulders in, and let your chin drop, and let your back curl. You want your shoulders to kind of line up over your hips if possible. And we're just going to make like a big C. It's called a C sit. And then if we get really cozy, we can even bring our head kind of up where our ears line over our shoulders. I always remember this because in my class, someone said that it made them feel like a frog because their head
Like a little
sat in,
turtle.
right? That too. And then you just hold that for about 30 seconds or until your body's like, I'm ready to move. And this is something that's so simple. You can do a quick stretch with it, or you can do the whole bend. And just exaggerating that pattern will let you release. And oh, my back is popping and moving. That's good.
I know, mine did too. And I often find with um, holistic movements or modalities that we tend to do them in our everyday lives. We might not know
Mhm.
what we're doing or why we're doing it, or that it's even connected to a specific modality. But I know that I will often kind of stretch and release and then feel that movement and feel more expressive afterwards.
Right?
I always think that's interesting.
In the development of ortho-bionomy, when we start techniques, we start with what we call phase 4, which is just a description of a series of techniques. But the first 3 phases, if you will, um, Dr. Paul's really described as things that we do, whether it's in our sleep or an unconscious movement, because our body is brilliant, and this wisdom of how to move and release is really built into us.
Mm.
And then we just get to build on how to help facilitate more releases as practitioners.
Well, thank you so much for giving us insight to this beautiful modality, so gentle and such an approachable experience.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so glad to get to share. It's something that's growing that most people haven't heard of yet, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you for all that you do and that you give. It's beautiful, wonderful. And thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. This is Insight into Wellness. You can listen to this and more by going to greentreeayurveda.com. Thank you so much, and we'll talk next time.